ST 2016. This is interviews, music reviews, and more. This is The Hotter Show.
What is up, everybody? We're Rolling Audio here today in episode 319 of The Hotter Show. I hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic. Thank you so very much for tuning in and clicking that play button. On today's episode of the podcast, I've got an absolutely kick-ass episode for you here today, as I try to every single week right here on The Hotter Show. I'm sitting down with my new buddy, Christian Dotto, from One in the Chamber. He's the bass player and one of the songwriters for the band, and we have an absolutely kick-ass chat. We talk about his influences, what got him into music, a little bit about the band, a little bit about kind of the early days of his music career, and really just overall musical journeys. And it was so fun to get to chat with him, man, because, you know, he's been in the music scene in Ontario basically overall for the last like over 10 years. So it was really fun getting to kind of hear some of his stories and, of course, learn about One in the Chamber and what just a badass band they are, man. So you guys are definitely going to enjoy this conversation. Before I jump in, I got to give a humongous shout out to everybody who supported last week's episode of the show. I did my best of 2021 Hotter Show Music Showcase. Huge shout out to all the bands on that. If you missed it, go back and check it out. There were 8 badass songs and 8 badass bands for you to enjoy. So go check it out. Give those bands a follow. They deserve your support. And I thank you so very much for all of your support. We are rounding up on my 6th year anniversary here on the show on February 4th. So I'm excited for that. I'm going to do something. I don't know what it is yet. Might try and do a live cast or something. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But in the meantime, we got a badass interview with Christian from One in the Chamber. Let's get into it. All right, guys, I'm joined on the show right now by Christian Dotto, the bassist and songwriter of One in the Chamber. Christian, what's up, brother? How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, man, it's a pleasure. This has been, like we were saying before we started, this has been a bit of a long time coming, man. I've been a fan of what you guys have been doing now for the last, year and a bit. Thanks to, I'm just going to shout her out now. Thanks to Kaylin, because she was the one who stayed after me, said, you got to check out One in the Chamber. And man, your guys' brand new song. Well, I guess technically it feels like a brand new song to me just because of how this last year was, right? But I guess technically it was actually 2020 where you guys dropped To the Gallows. But I heard that song, I cranked it up, I put it on repeat like 100 times, and I was like, yo, I got to get these guys on the show. So it's a pleasure to finally connect with you, man.
Oh, likewise, man. And thank you for the compliment. Once again, you know, I listened to you, as we talked before, I listened to you and Kaylin also talk about it on your show. And man, like at any time that you guys talked about One in the Chamber, I was just like, oh, you guys, you know, like, oh, you guys, stop it. But it's like immensely flattering. And yeah, man, like To the Gallows is probably one of our most unique songs, and so unique that we actually almost didn't bring it into the studio to record.
Really?
When we recorded the song, I believe it was the end of 2019 or beginning of 2020. It's when we recorded, like, you know, the last batch of songs. And when we were deciding on which songs to put for the new record that's eventually going to be coming out, we, you know, Blow was definitely like one of our top ones. We're like, Blow, this, and maybe To the Gallows, maybe, you know, like, and we eventually brought it to our producer, Murray Daigle at Phase One Studios. And I think he also thought it was weird, but he's got a thing for like bringing out the best in songs. Mm-hmm. And he just like brought it to life, you know, and turned out to be like one of my favorite songs, I would say, from our band.
Well, that's it. And I mean, taking nothing away from your guys' other work and Blow, and I mean, like, don't get me wrong, it's all badass. But like for me, that's more like, I guess, the straight up kind of dirty rock and roll, right? And I dig that stuff. But for me, it was like when I heard To the Gallows, I was just like, okay, this is it's showing off kind of almost like another a little bit more of a dynamics of yes, we can do straight up rock and roll, but also we can kind of go a little, I don't even know what the word I'm looking for is, like kind of like groovy, like kind of, I don't even know what the word I'm looking for is, but it's like a cool,
grittier,
unique song. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, I'm a metalhead personally. So like anything that's like doomy and heavy.
Doomy. That's the word I was looking for, was doomy.
Okay, cool. Right on. Oh, it certainly is doomy, I would say. There's a lot of influences. Actually, we recently got a comment on the video on YouTube, which I mainly take care of our social media platforms. I take care of the YouTube platform mostly. But we got a comment on it, and the comment was basically pointing out how unique the vocals and music were. And it was like as you put it earlier, how it's sort of a mix of like old school and modern sounds. And I think that's something we try to strive for, is not repeating past bands' music and stuff, as influential as they are. We're not trying to do the same thing as other bands. We're trying to carve our own path and, make music that we love, and hopefully other people will love too. And I have a philosophy that if you love what you're playing, then you'll attract the right people and the right listeners to your music. So that's sort of what we do. We just write whatever makes us happy and whatever we're vibing with. And yeah, seems to be working out pretty well so far. So
well, I'll say it. I mean, that's what's so cool is, you guys are definitely a part of this kind of classic rock revival that's happened the last few years with there's certain bands that have really stepped up a notch. Obviously, bands like Greta Van Fleet, who, like, when they first came out, I mean, I've talked my fair share of shit about Greta Van Fleet in the past, but it's like, I didn't really get it, where I was like, okay, I've heard this before to a T, like I've heard this before, but then they dropped, I think it was last year they dropped a single, and I went, okay, this is, so like you guys are almost like the other side of that, where it's like, hey, there's a little Zeppelin, a little Sabbath, maybe a little Motley Crue, maybe a little of other bands in there that I hear, like, but then it's also like it's wrapped up in this nice little modern package. It doesn't sound like you guys are trying to be other bands, but that sounds like it's almost like it sounds familiar, but not like, oh, I've heard this before. It's kind of it's a cool feeling when you get that. And you guys definitely have that to me, for sure.
Yes. I think that's sort of the route that rock and roll needs to be taking nowadays, because at this point, like, everything's kind of already been done, like Led Zeppelin's been a thing. Black Sabbath's been a thing. Metallica's been a thing. Nirvana's been a thing, through the decades. Like, so rock music has evolved so much, and I'm sure like it can evolve further, but nowadays you just got to like take what's been done and sort of, like you said, wrap it up in this modern kind of thing. And, hopefully that evolves into something new and something innovative, and I mean, yeah, that's kind of like, I think, where rock needs to go, because if we stay sort of writing stuff that's already been written, then, I don't think, like, it's never going to grow as a genre. And I think what hip hop is doing really well nowadays is it's evolving, like rock's been a thing for a lot longer than hip hop and rap have. So now rap is sort of like, now it's rap and hip hop's time to evolve, and it's popular and it's always changing. Rap 20 years ago sounds nothing like rap now, and it probably won't sound the same in another 10 years, but that's kind of where, like, how music genres survive, is you have to evolve and you have to adapt. And as comfortable and cool as it is to like try to sound like other bands, you got to sort of like do your own thing and just see where the music takes you.
Right. And that's, and that's such a cool thing too. When we look at bands like a Greta Van Fleet, who, like I already said, I made no qualms about the fact that I was like, oh, Highway Song. Yeah. I liked it a lot better the first time I heard it. It's an old Gene Simmons line, I liked it a lot better the first time I heard it when it was Beth by Kid. I was like, oh, I liked it better when it was Immigrant Song or whatever the hell. Like that was always the joke I made. But then, like I said, then they dropped that one single I heard and I went, okay, there's evolution here. This is what needs to happen. And then you've got bands like yourselves and the other multitude of bands really in Ontario, in my opinion, bands like the Jailbirds, Revive the Rose, and Drop Top Alibi, and tons other to even mention here. But just to mention a few who you guys have that vibe, but it's, it's ever evolving. It's not like just, hey, we really like Led Zeppelin, so let's just try and emulate Led Zeppelin. But I think that's what happens too when you get a lot of different people in the bands that have different influences. Like you mentioned how you're a metalhead, and you can definitely hear that in your playing. Like to me, your bass playing is it really stands out because you're not like a typical. It doesn't shock me that you're a metal player is what I'm trying to say. There's definitely a little more movement happening, and I dig that because I'm a metal guy. So,
oh, amazing!
That's what I like.
We just become best friends.
Yep. Now, so tell me, let's go back for a minute here, because talking about influences and things like that, who got you started on your musical journey? What was the band that you heard and you made you want to go, I want to do this. I want to pick up the bass. How did all that start?
Okay, so I love this question. So I grew up. My brother and I grew up on Metallica and rock music in general, but our dad introduced us to Metallica, and my mom's favorite band growing up was Kiss, and just all of those cool 80s bands, Van Halen, Def Leppard, Motley Crue, Guns N' Roses, the list goes on. But man, Metallica, almost every car ride we'd have Metallica's Black Album playing.
Nice.
Here I was born, so it was like the new thing back then. And that's pretty much where it started. Since then, just loved metal, loved Metallica, overall. They're if it wasn't obvious up until now, they're my favorite band like ever. And I when I was about, I would say like 10 or 11, I watched one of Metallica's live albums that they released. It was a Live Shit Binge and Purge.
Hell yeah.
It came out in like 93 or something. And my dad got the box set as like a gift from a cousin. And so VHS box set, who remembers those?
I do. I was there, bro.
God, we're old.
I was gonna say I was born the same year you were, so yeah, we're in the same boat.
Right on. So VHS box set. I watched the live show, and that was probably the show that inspired me to want to play. And man, Metallica put on a fantastic show. That show, they always do, but that particular show, they just were phenomenal, and they were playing in this arena, and the stage was like at the center of the arena. So it wasn't your conventional stage. It was like they could run around it, and the crowd was surrounding it and stuff, and just so cool and so different. And their stage presence was like out of this world. So I wanted to be like them. I wanted to play guitar like Kirk Hammett. I wanted to play drums like Lars Ulrich, and and eventually bass. But guitar, ironically, guitar or bass was actually my last instrument I learned, the most recent one. Started off with guitar because guitar is super cool. Like everybody wants to be a guitar player.
Of course. Yeah.
And then in high school, I got into drums. Took music throughout high school and was a drummer throughout high school. So that's where that started. And also in high school, I very casually picked up the bass guitar. But I was a very casual player. I was mostly playing guitar and drums. But that's kind of where it started. So those are my three main instruments. I can play drums, guitar, and bass. Obviously, bass.
I was gonna say, I would hope so. That's not actually me playing, bro. It's all fake.
Am I doing it right? I don't know.
Just rock that root note, brother. That's it.
Yeah. So that's kind of where it started. Gotta thank my parents for getting, my brother and I into rock music at an early age, and it just sort of blossomed from there. I've been in multiple bands before One in the Chamber. I was a bass player in a band, was a drummer actually in the band before One in the Chamber. And then in One in the Chamber, they needed a bass player at the time. So I decided to hone in on my love for bass, and here we are.
Nice. So I have to ask, speaking of Metallica and that, because I'm really curious, because you are a bass player, and it is always an interesting conversation whenever you bring up bass players and Metallica, because a lot of Metallica fans, if you ask them, there's only one bass player for Metallica, right? They don't want to hear any other conversation. Who is that bass player to you? Who is the bass player for Metallica?
Oh man, I think all three of Metallica's bass players have brought something different to the band.
Agreed.
My favorite has always been Cliff Burton.
Okay.
Rest in peace, Cliff. You know what, man? Like, he's actually what inspired me to really harness the bass, and like his tone was like out of this world. And he used to really play the bass like a guitar, which was like never before seen at the time. And
probably resonated with you too, right? Because it's like, being a guitar player learning bass, those are tricky waters to navigate, right?
For sure. And he really changed the game for bass players, I think. So I would say, to answer your question, Cliff is my favorite. I think Rob Trujillo, I think he's done a great job with the band.
Agreed. Yeah.
I don't think they give him the time of day most of the time, because he is a fantastic bass player. And I think he just needs to be turned up in the mix. Well, actually, their most recent album, The Mix, was fantastic for bass.
Yes.
But man, he's doing so many cool things, and Rob just needs to be heard. And if Rob Trujillo is listening to this podcast, I'm with you, man.
Well, listen, Rob's a big fan, and I actually no, but that's funny, because so the first time I heard Rob Trujillo was on, actually, I'm a huge Alice in Chains fan, and he played on Jerry Cantrell's solo record Degradation Trip, and so that's where right before he joined Metallica, it was like 2002, so it was right before he joined Metallica. But I saw a video of this guy slunking around, and I'm like, who is this guy? And I looked him up, and it was like, oh, he's joined Metallica. And I was like, it was like the day he joined Metallica, I discovered him, and I was like, oh, what the hell? Who is this cat? So, but to me, there's only one bass player from Metallica, and that is the general, Mr. Newsted. That's it for me. I don't know why. Actually, I can tell you why, because the first time I ever heard My Friend of Misery, it changed the way I approached music. I don't know why. Just his bass. You probably are familiar with it, I'm sure. It wasn't on Binge and Purge. It was on Cunning Stunts, I think it was called. It was it was the late 90s. They did this live. It was the same principle where they were playing in the round. And there's this video of Jason Newsted, short hair Jason Newsted, doing a bass solo where he plays My Friend of Misery in its entirety the way he originally wrote it. And then Kurt comes in and does the little wah guitar parts. And then they play a bunch of different songs, just the bass and guitar. And it was so cool. And I was like, yo, this dude is holy shit, this guy's an amazing bass player. And then you look at the history of Jason, you said, in Metallica, and it's like, oh, they hated his guts and didn't let him really do anything. Oh, okay. So yeah. I think for me, that's why, because I love his playing and his singing so much that when he dropped the Newsted record, I just about fainted. But so it's funny, being Metallica fans, it's you could have a whole conversation just on who's the favorite bass player, because you got so much talent in that band, man. But yeah, no, I'm a big fan of Cliff too. I mean, come on, how can you not be? And then Rob Trujillo as well. So that's funny though to hear. I would have guessed you were just based off the fact that the Black Album and Binge and Purge was your intro. I would have assumed you were a Jason Newsted guy. So that's interesting to hear that you're.
Yeah, you know what, man? I love Jason Newsted as well. I honestly think, and I think this is not an arguable thing. I think this is a fact that Jason Newsted is was the most metal bass player Metallica ever had. And I don't think Metallica has ever been as metal as they were with him in the band. Like he just brought this attitude. And obviously, like if you listen to his stuff on And Justice for All, like there's some crazy bass stuff going on there. Like he is such a great bass player. And, you know, like he definitely deserves the time of day. I think, I think he's great. You know, they were all great in their own respect, you know? So, definitely take influence from, Jason Newsted as well. Especially his attitude. So,
well, and that's it too, right? Like just the way that Jason carries himself. I mean, there's a reason they call him the general, right? Like the way that he carried himself and the way that he just had this commanding presence when he's next to a guy like James Hetfield, who is, depending on who you ask, he's the best front man of all time. Like, you know, so like, who's better than James Hetfield? I'm sorry. Like you come on, like, you know, as far as guys who sing and play guitar, like get out of here. But yeah, no, that's cool to hear though, that there's at least, cause like as someone who has always been super interested in bass, but could never quite figure it out. You know what I mean? Like I have such a respect for bass players because I was that guy who, oh, you need a bass player for your band? Yeah, man, I'll join for sure. And then it's just, I made the joke earlier about root notes. Well, that's, you know, that's it, man.
Gets the job done, right?
Yeah, man. Just rock that low E, brother. You're good. But that's what's so interesting about bass players in their journeys and looking at even a band like Metallica, where there's such a dynamic and different styles. And it's cool to really just sit down and, you know, when I talk with bass players, it's so fun for me because like even someone like yourself, like bass players can all have such a different, unique style. And a lot of people don't pick up on it. And for me, like I mentioned earlier, you have a lot of movement, but it's not like it's overdone. Like sometimes you'll hear a song, as I'm sure you pick out, and it's like, okay, can you fit any more notes in this fucking like, come on, man. Like, you know, you have just the right amount of movement where it's like, it's very soulful, but then it's also very heavy. So it kind of helps to drive the machine along of the song, so to speak.
I appreciate that. That's exactly what I go for when I'm writing is like, gosh, I have so many influences that I can take from like, not only Metallica, but, you know, Iron Maiden as well. You know, Steve Harris is a fantastic bass player.
To me, when you think of metal bass players who have a lot of movement, so to speak, but are still tasteful with it, I mean, he's got to be in the conversation. Steve Harris is a freaking beast. So I'm not shocked to hear that you're a fan of his.
Yeah, he's a fantastic bass player. And I had I was lucky enough to see them live a few years ago. And man, like, especially at his age, I think him and Bruce Dickinson at their ages, I can't believe, you know, how energetic and, you know, how much energy they have running around the stage, especially Bruce Dickinson. That guy is like the Energizer Bunny. He's like running around, jumping on things. And I'm like, man, this guy's like in his 60s, I think, or late 50s, whatever it is. And he's like running around like that. Like, yeah, it's pretty cool. But Steve Harris, same thing. And, you know, he just makes everything look so easy when he's playing. And his parts are very clever. And they're unique. Just a great bass player. Mm-hmm. So I definitely take influence from him. I like his use of the higher registers on the bass.
Yes. He's not just keeping it like I've heard the joke before from some bass players where it's like, oh, be careful not to go past that 7th fret, bro. Like, you know.
Yeah. That's funny. I played in like a hardcore band.
Nice.
At the beginning of college. That was actually the first band I ever played with outside of high school, where I played for like a high school band, but they were called Monster Face. And I was the bass player and all the songs were in drop C. So like heavy. Anyway, going to the joke where it's like, don't go past the 7th fret, you know? We used to joke hardcore. Yeah, we used to joke that like, you know, what's the point of having the other strings? Like, you're only just going to play the thickest string anyway. Like, been a one string bass the whole time. Like I never even used the other ones.
Oh yeah. One string bass. That would have been awesome.
That's yeah, maybe I'll like do that one day. Just like pull out a one string bass. Like who needs the other strings?
Just drop C that shit and call it a day.
Yeah.
Listen, you got 12 frets. You can find the note there somewhere. Come on. Let's
Yeah, there's enough notes for one string, you know?
Oh God.
Anyway, but yeah, so that was a fun band. But going back to influences, I gotta say, so I played in this band. We never played any shows, but I practiced with them a whole bunch. It was a very Tool inspired band.
Okay.
Called Idiom. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, very, very Tool vibes. And honestly, like I've always been a fan of Tool, more of a casual fan. I have nothing but like respect for that band because the work they put into their albums is just like beyond imaginable. Like the imagination and just like the musicality, just they pretty much release masterpieces every time. So Tool is amazing. But anyway, this band was very Tool influenced, and basically I was out of my element for a bit. And so I got more into Tool's music and into the songs that they were writing. So like more odd time signature stuff, and basically got, versed in that style of music. And one of the most important things I learned from Tool's bass player is having your own voice as a bassist. And he is like the master of that.
Yeah. I was gonna say, he pretty much wrote the book on it. Let's be serious.
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like everybody in Tool is just the master at that, like they're all doing their thing, but they're also all together and it's all like intricate and just like everything is just woven together in like just like a masterpiece of music. And Justin Chancellor is the bass player. I almost forgot his name. And yeah, Justin Chancellor is like the master of that. And that's something I took, with me, and I use that in my playing today, because as a bass player, I don't just want to be in the background and, just be in the back playing, whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. Rhythm bass players are great, but for me, I definitely try to play as uniquely as possible, and to try to inspire with my writing, hopefully anyway.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, like with what you're mentioning for for bass players who are kind of in the background, you don't really think about them a lot. Like, don't get me wrong, that is very, very important, because you've got guys like the bass player for Judas Priest, who I don't know anybody who could probably tell me his name, or like when you really don't get me wrong, talented son bitch. But when you think about Judas Priest, that's what you think of with respects to Mr. Ian Hill, badass songwriter and everything. But like, you don't really think of like, oh, Judas Priest, oh man, that Ian Hill bass line, bro, it slaps. Like, you don't think of that, but like, it's such a crucial part to that Judas Priest sound where you don't really think about it, but when it's not there, you notice. Or if they change something, you notice. It's like if AC/DC didn't have those driving bass lines, it wouldn't be the same,
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Judas Priest, even, without those driving bass lines, it wouldn't be the same. Actually, now that we're on the topic, so I've been practicing. I'm going to be doing a cover of Chop Suey with a band called Sticks and Stones. They're out of Toronto, and I think they're like fairly new. I only heard about them a few months ago. Brandon Gregory from Drop Top did a cover with them a few months ago.
Right. Okay. Yes. I wondered where I heard that name before. Okay. That's how.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I remember like looking at Brandon's story, and I was like, wait a minute, that's not Drop Top Alibi. Like, who are these guys? And there Brandon was playing bass and looking badass like usual.
Well, I mean, That dude's perfected the hair flip. I'm like, get out of here. Come on.
Oh yeah. He's just like, I'm like, I'm jealous. Brandon.
Listen, you got the moves too, man. Come on. I've seen video footage of that. You got the moves. Come on. You've perfected. I don't mean to interrupt you, but like you've perfected what I love about good bass players when you perfect like the foot shuffle. That is the foot shuffle and the hair flip is like, those are prime bass moves, man. You got those down.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I try to be as interesting on stage as I possibly can. So I appreciate it. But so I was watching, I saw the video with Brandon playing with them, and I was very curious as to who they were. So I shot them a message. I was like, hey, I'm the bass player of One in the Chamber. Like, came across you guys through Brandon Gregory. And, I'm down to collaborate if you want. I'm always down to collaborate with anybody. And so, yeah, we basically connected, and they were a bit busy at the time when I messaged them, but they recently got back to me and they're like, hey, do you want to cover Chop Suey by System of a Down? I'm like, yeah, I love System of a Down. Let's do it, And so I already knew how to play the song, but kind of relearned it, polished it up a bit, and probably going to be recording that next week. But I don't even know if I'm even supposed to be talking about this. If it's supposed to be a surprise. Sorry, Sticks and Stones.
Big shout out to those guys though, because I was just looking them up because I was curious. They actually just dropped a cover of Silvera by Gojira, which is one of my favorite songs from them. So huge shout out to that. I'm gonna have to check that out after this interview because
awesome. Yeah, they're these two kids. I feel old saying that, but they're. I
do too. It's okay. We are old, dude. Come on, we're 30 now. We're old, man.
I guess so, but man, they're really talented. The guitar player is very good. I was watching some of their videos a couple days ago, showing my dad them actually, and just really good players. And I can't wait to meet them. I haven't met them in person yet, but looking forward to going in there, laying down some bass tracks, and their basement looks really nice. I know
yes.
Andy from Revive the Rose was there recently, also laying down some vocals. And just, he was posting some cool stuff on his story. And I'm like, damn, they got a pool table down there. And
it's like, yo,
that's a cool basement. They got a recording studio, drums, pool table. Like, what else do you need, right?
Hey, yo, Sticks and Stones guys, real quick. You ever need someone to play the triangle or something? You hit your boy up. I'll come do it for free.
I play a mean harmonica. So
I play a mean, what are those damn things? Oh, wood block. Yeah, I play a mean wood block. Not even a cowbell or anything.
Cowbell.
Yeah. When I get drunk, I play a good cowbell.
Right on. The reason I brought up those Sticks and Stones guys, totally forgot. We just went on a tangent. But I was going to talk about System of a Down's bass player.
Yes,
and how
right.
He is a pure rhythm bass player. And I was listening to his bass track on Chop Suey, and there's not much to it, but it's so necessary. Like he just fills that space, that low end, and he does such a great job at doing it. And, kudos to the rhythm bass players. Honestly.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I was kind of tongue in cheeking earlier with the whole Ian Hill. I have nothing but the utmost respect for bass players who listen, I'm a humongous Godsmack fan, and that's 99% just boom, 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 boom. And he can do Robbie Merrill from Godsmack he's one of the best bass players I've ever seen live. He is just, what he can do is way beyond what Godsmack calls for, but he knows, okay, I gotta for 5 minutes, but even System of a Down, as you were saying that for Chop Suey, I'm sitting here going, I'm humming the bass part to myself. If it wasn't there, you'd be like, it's missing something, right?
For sure. It's very well thought out and solid. Very good stuff.
Talking about influences and different bands and things of that nature, you did touch on it a bit earlier, but I'm just curious kind of to dive into a little bit more and kind of dissect it, I guess, so to speak. When exactly did you join One in the Chamber, and how did that all come about?
So I joined One in the Chamber in 2015. I believe it was it 2015? Yeah, I think it was the beginning of 2015. Do you remember that band I mentioned where I played drums?
Yes.
We had basically broken up. So for a few months after we had broken up, I was auditioning for other bands as a drummer at first. And I got a few auditions, but nothing that really worked out. And actually, funny enough, what's that band called? There's like a death metal band in the Toronto scene called something Incarnate, Astroth Incarnate or something.
Oh gosh, yes. Oh, they're badass. I gotta look it up. This is bothering me because I've seen them pop up before. I've got a buddy in that death metal scene in Toronto, and like I've seen them pop up. Shout outs to them. I can't remember their damn name, and I can't even remember enough to try and look it up.
I have their singer on Facebook, and dude, if you're listening, I'm sorry, I can't remember your band name. I'm pretty sure it's Astroth Incarnate, but they're like a hella crazy death metal band, and whatever other subgenre of metal they are, they're a great band. But funny enough, they were looking for a drummer at the time when I was auditioning for bands, and I connected with them, but chickened out on an audition because, man, who the hell can play that shit? It's just like crazy, just craziness. Ridiculous. And that was like above my pay grade. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not the drummer for you. There are far, more skilled drummers that can handle this crazy metal. So I'm going to just, not waste your time here. And thank you for your time. Yeah. So, they were just one band. There was also a band called Caym, Caym, that I was auditioning as a drummer for. Didn't work out, unfortunately. But they're really good. I'm still friends with their singer on Facebook and in real life. But
because there was a difference. Listen, there's a difference.
Yeah, he's a really cool guy, and I've seen them play. Saw them play at the Rock Pile once a few years ago. Nice. And great metal band. But yeah, after all that, I knew Cecil in high school, and we talked in high school, but we weren't really like super close. And then after high school, we didn't really keep in touch very often. But I heard through his brother, who is friends with my brother and myself, that Cecil was looking for a bass player for his new band because his former band broke up or whatever happened. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm looking for a band to play in. So, I'm going to hook up with Cecil and like see where it goes. So Cecil and I got together. He taught me a couple songs. One of them being Bills to Pay.
Nice.
Bills to Pay was actually like the first song I think One in the Chamber ever worked on. Even before we had a name for the band, even before I entered the band,
it was already being worked on.
Yeah. So it was a song that Cecil had written for his other band, but they chose not to work on it because it was too rock or too heavy or something for them. So I got together with Cecil, learned a couple songs, and eventually went in for an audition. And there I met Mike and Jared. Yeah, that's kind of how we started. It was, I would say, March 2015, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I guess they liked me because I'm still in the band. I remember being nervous and just playing my heart out, and it all worked out. So that's where it started.
And that's what's so fun too. Like when you have played in bands like you have obviously, from what you've said, like you've had some experience playing in bands, and one thing that I always find when I talk with people who have played in multiple bands is like they know what they want. Like as much as it's like, yes, the music has to be good, but you gotta you got to gel with the people. Like that's almost, I used to have, like, people say to me back when I was working at the store, like kids would come in and they'd be like, oh, this is my band and everything. And we'd like shoot the shit. And I'd be like, they'd be like, do you have any advice? And I'd be like, okay, I got advice. Go lock yourselves in a room together and stay there for a week. Oh, that sounds horrible. Then this isn't for you. Yeah. Like, could you, that's what I always say. I say the same thing about relationships. Go lock yourself in a room. And if you can stay in there and not murder each other, or at least remotely have a good time, then right on, you know. But it's like, you got to know, like, you're getting into it. Like, okay, like if you have a prior relationship with them, okay, I know this guy's at least cool. Like we got along at some point. So like, yeah, we'll probably still get along, you know?
I couldn't agree more, man. And the comparison to actual relationships is so true,
dude. Yeah.
I often say I'm in a relationship with 3 dudes, you know, because you know, you're talking to each other almost every day. You got to see each other. We see each other at least once a week for practice. You know, that's our date, I guess you could say. Yes. You could like call it
weekly date night
to rehearse and shoot the shit and stuff. And you basically have to, like, you grow with these people. You know, the longer you're together in this band, you're growing with them. You're learning about each other. And, you know, if you want to thrive as a band, you have to learn to grow together. Just like how, you know, relationships flourish when, you know, both sides are growing together. And, right. You know, you got to learn to compromise and, you know, kind of throw your egos to the side, because if not, like, nothing's gonna work, you know, and you're gonna break up eventually because everyone wants to do their own thing. So
I need my voice heard. Like,
yeah.
What does that mean? Like, what? You're the singer, bro.
Yeah. Isn't that ironic? It's like they're the first one you hear, and, you know, not all singers are like
no, that's a generic. That was actually one of my favorite bands. That was one reason why the guitar player at the time is why he left. He was always bitching, my voice needs to be heard. And they're like, you're writing the songs, you're singing most of it. Like, it's like 75% you, bro. We can't give you any more.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, no, it happens, right? Like, and there's some times where, as I'm sure you've experienced in your musical journey, like, you can start off in a good place and then, you know, you spend a couple of days together and it's like, oh, like, that guy's got a bit of an ego problem. Like, and the more you deal with, like, in my experience, the super ridiculously talented people are generally the coolest, which is always interesting. It's those people that are like, it's almost like they, like, I don't know if it's like an imposter syndrome type thing. In my experience, that's what I've seen, where it's like, hey, you're kind of a dick. But like, I think it's because you're scared. You know what I mean? Like, it's interesting to think about that.
For sure. Yeah. I think it's like they're probably overcompensating for not being that great of a player. And, you know, it is what it is. And I mean, I always find those kinds of players and musicians, or anybody doing anything, when you've got that attitude, you're not going to get very far. So I usually just don't pay any mind to those people anyway, because it's like, good luck having that attitude. I'm just going to do my thing over here, you know?
That's it, man. So, all the real, true, like, just talented people, like, especially with what I do, like, the most talented people are always the coolest. Like, and like, I've spoken with some people who could have been dicks if they wanted to be, and I would have been like, I get it, but it's like, oh, you're cool as shit. Like, that's awesome. And then you speak with people who it's like, hey man, you kind of suck, but I'm being nice. You know, like, you reach out to me, you know, and like, whoa, okay. You know, and it sucks that I haven't dealt with that the last couple of years. I've been very fortunate, but like, it's just funny, right? I don't even know how I got off on this topic, but my point is that, you know, when you're dealing with bands, it's like a relationship. And like you were saying, as you grow, like, sometimes you might need to learn how to put each other's egos in check if you do come across that, but then also how to respect the song and know that, okay, hey, it's like, listen, Christian, man, yeah, this bass solo is really cool. And we appreciate the fact that you want to play a 20-minute bass solo, but like, does the song need it? Like, not saying that you would do that, but like,
yeah, no, I
listen,
so would.
No, I want to hear that now. So we got to make that happen.
Yeah, you know what? Bass solo, coming right up. I'll have to work on some cool like overture, bass overture, But yeah, no, man, I agree, and I think those nice people, they attract other nice people, and the people who have attitudes, they're usually just like alone somewhere, and that's why we've got such a great community in Ontario.
Yes.
And I guess more specifically, Toronto and the GTA, but it's because like we're all just great and trying to support each other. And that's how the music scene grows. And that's just how you go about life. You just got to be kind and just be cool. Don't be a dick,
Just be cool. It is so much easier to just be nice to everybody than to like just be a dick. Like I tried it for one day once. I was like, I'm going to be like kind of rude to everybody today. And I got like an hour into my day and I was like, I'm drained. Like I just don't understand it. Like, how can you not just go up to a drive-through? Hey, how are you today? Like, I don't get it. Like I could just, I need a large coffee. It's like, hey man, like we're all people. We're all people moving in the same direction. Let's all just relax and all be friends. And it just makes things a lot easier. And you see that in the scene, I call it the Ontario scene just because or bands that know Kalen, because it's just like easier to group everybody.
Yeah.
6 degrees of Kalen or whatever the hell. But like, it's so funny to me because like, like I was mentioning here before we started, like when I had Brandon Gregory from Drop Top Alibi on, it like kind of opened the door a little bit into then he was like, oh dude, you got to talk to this band and this band and this band and this band. And like, it's so cool because it's like, oh man, like you can tell it's genuine too, and that it's cool for someone like me as a fan looking in, like, oh, like all these guys are cool. And I have someone on in an interview and off air, they're like, oh dude, like, man, like Andy's such a fucking gem. Like, oh my God, like everyone loves him. And like, oh dude, no, like Mike and dude, like, oh, like everyone's just has such wonderful things to say about everybody. And it's just like, this is so cool, man. And that's what it should be. It should be everybody lifting everyone up, right?
I couldn't agree more. Yeah. And speaking of Andy, I was actually had a really nice messenger conversation with Andy the other night. And he's a great guy. I actually still have not met him in person.
Okay. Well, that makes two of us, but yeah, I'm
that's fair. Yeah. I mean, he's so far away. Like, man, like
he's in Welland. Like, who lives in Welland except for my sister, bro? Like, come on.
Yeah. But I guess that's where it's at because, Revive the Rose is
straight up
partying down there. There's a big party going on down there with them. But
yeah.
But yeah, I had a great conversation with Andy, and he's just such a cool guy. Honestly, everybody in, I guess, the bands that we're talking about, Drop Top Alibi, Jailbirds, Revive the Rose, Dirty Rick as well.
Yes.
I'm just naming the bands that Kalen had for Halloween Rock Eve.
Listen, just like the 6 degrees of Kalen, we're just gonna, I think we made a joke like, oh, you guys know Kalen? Like, yeah, like it's just easier now to just like one day when I meet like Kiss, I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, you guys know Kalen. Like, yeah, like it's just
everybody knows Kalen. Yeah, dude. And yeah, there's so many bands to name off. Like I can't even name all of the amazing talent, There's like We the Crooked is great. The Reed Effect, like they're all just great. There's also a band out of Windsor called Exomerta who we played with them in Toronto in I think 2018, and they are killer 3-piece band. Like awesome. Shout out to those guys. Hope to play with them again. Actually, they're great. But yeah, so much talent. Like honestly, what a time to be alive. Like we're in this community and we're thriving, it's a great thing.
It is, man. And I mean, like, it makes me so happy and excited for the future because like, yes, we're in this weird climate right now that we're dealing with and shows are kind of like, there's a lot of uncertainties, but it's like, listen, when the gates open back up fully, it is going to be like, I don't even like, I don't know if I'm ready for it, because it is going to be just like one giant party for like a year. Like every band is going to play every week. Like it's like, you're not going to be able to turn around without bumping into a badass show. Like I cannot wait for it, because it's going to be great. And I'm so excited for bands like you guys who are, you know, I don't like to say the C word because it can kind of mess up podcast stuff apparently, but like,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I just learned this like a couple of days ago, but anyway, apparently if you say the word, you get flagged or I don't know. Anyway.
Oh, okay.
Thanks, Joe Rogan. So like we, you know, I see these bands that you can't help but almost be like, oh damn. Like, you know, like I saw you guys do a lot in 2020, which was awesome. But it's like, man, like I'm sure it would have been great. Obviously goes without saying to be able to go out and, you know, really capitalize on the momentum. And I think that like it's still there. It's just almost like it was kind of put on hold. So when it's almost like it's like one of those like wind up race cars we had when we were kids, you know, little Hot Wheels. You hold that thing back and eventually that thing's going to go. And it's just going to be like, it's going to be insane. And I, for one, can't wait. I just don't know if my liver's prepared, because it's going to be, it's going to be ridiculous. We're all going to go to Welland. We're going to have we're going to go to Bar Down Fest is going to be probably the happening spot. And we're all just going to get drunk on Bar Down Lager and just have a good time.
I really can't wait for that time when things open up again and all the bands are just going to be doing their thing, playing shows, and the combination of like bands playing together is just very exciting to me as well. You know, like it's just super cool. Yeah. I can't wait. I can't wait for it.
Yeah, man.
It's funny you mentioned in 2020, man, we tried so hard and I think we did a pretty good job at, but man, like we were planning on releasing an EP in the summer of 2020 that we still haven't released yet. Just waiting out, you know, when the right time will come. And we didn't want to release it without playing a show as well, which would be like ideal. But, you know, we released Blow and then pandemic. And it was unfortunate, but we were also fortunate to be sitting on previously recorded music, having recorded earlier or later, late 2019 or early 2020. But we were lucky to have music that we could put out, and we filmed Blow in, I believe it was February of 2020. We put that out, and fortunately it turned out to be our biggest release so far, which was very cool. Thank you to everybody who's listened to it and streamed. You know, we love you guys. You know, we were sort of waiting it out in 2020. And, you know, we released To the Gallows later in the year because we were like, okay, we got to release something. Like nothing's changing in this pandemic. So we got to keep it going. So put out the To the Gallows music video, where we originally weren't going to film a video for that song, but you know, it turned out really well. I think it was a cool song to put out there regardless. And yeah, you know, 2021 didn't release anything in 2021, but we were fortunate actually to play a few shows at the end of the year. In August, we played Voodoo Rock Fest, which was really fun. Played at Cherry Cola's in Toronto. Played at the Hard Luck Bar in Toronto. And, you know, we had a good run at the end of the year, and then things started like shutting down again at the end of last year and beginning of this year. And, you know, here we are now, but yeah, I think we adapted fairly well, and I'm happy with where we're at now, you know, but I can't wait for things to open up. Like, let's get a move on, guys. Let's do it. Yeah,
I'm there with you too, for different reasons, obviously. But yeah, it's like, I'm ready to, I want to see, you know, bands like you who are like you're kind of like, what are we looking? Can we go? Can we, like, we got shit to do. We got lives to change. Like, let's get her done. Let's go. Like, come on. Like, let's get playing shows. Like, you know, I want to believe we're getting there. I want to believe that the light is at the end of the tunnel, you know, depending on who you believe. So I'm like, okay, like, and I'm telling you, man, like there's there's gonna be this like renaissance in the music industry that I think is gonna just, and I really, really hope I'm right. Like, I'm just a music fan podcaster, but like I want to believe, because there's so much talent that's just firing on all cylinders. Like, got bands like you who are just like, let's go and kick some ass, like, especially with live shows. Like, if there was a bunch of bands that couldn't play live, when you get the opportunity, it's just, you're gonna just blow the doors off it. So I can't wait for it either, personally, man. I'm really excited for when that day comes.
I appreciate it, and I hope you're right too. I hope there's this wave of shit once everything opens up. Just get ready for this wave of talent and excitement. It's gonna be like the what is it, the 20s or whatever,
the Roaring 20s. Yeah,
it was like the big party after the Depression or whatever it was.
Well, yeah, something of that nature.
I was never good at history.
Yeah, I'm not much of a history guy. A very selective history.
Yes.
Yeah, like that's it. Yeah, like I think, or was that one joke? It was like the Roaring 20s or some shit. Like, it's like emo, roar, but it's the Roaring 20s. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I think we're getting there. With bands like you guys getting ready to kind of lead the charge, so to speak. Like, I can't wait for it, man. I'm hyped, and I can't wait for the day that I'm able to see you do the shuffle and hair flip live in person, man. I'm going to be excited for it.
Awesome, man. I can't wait for that too.
For sure, brother. Well, as we get ready to wrap it up, man, thank you so much for the time and for coming on. It's been just a pleasure chatting with you. It's kind of a staple question I always like to ask here on the show, and I'm excited to hear your response given your history. Give me either your favorite show that you've ever played or the worst show experience you ever had, or you can give me both. It's up to you.
Okay. Well, right off the bat, I've got the worst show experience. We were playing at the Hard Luck Bar. I can't remember what year it was, maybe 2017. And we were opening up for this band called The Marrows. And basically, like, I feel like it was in the middle of the week or something. It was also winter, and nobody came out. Oof. It was like The Marrows had a couple people, I think. But we basically played to Mike's girlfriend at the time, now wife, and Cecil's ex-girlfriend or something. Like, played to two or three people.
Oh no.
And because, we didn't have anyone to play for, well, Miranda, you are someone, thank you for coming out. But it was just, the vibe wasn't there. And we were pretty awful that night. And luckily nobody was there to see us play that show because it wasn't great. And then, that was just not good. After the show, Mike and Cecil kind of drank their sorrows away. And we're just like, well, let's forget about this one. As for favorite show, I got to say The Hideout in Toronto, which, rest in peace, they had to close down because of the pandemic. But The Hideout was probably my favorite venue to play at. I loved the vibe. I loved the whole atmosphere, and the venue itself was really nice. The owners were really cool. They hosted that contest called The Bout, which you may have heard of.
Right. Yes. I've heard the name.
Yeah. And just like class acts, they treated the bands well. It was a great venue. And I don't know if I can pick out a particular show. The last show we played there was actually for The Bout in 2020, February 1st, 2020, I believe. And that was arguably one of our best shows, I would say, that we performed. So I would say maybe that one's probably my favorite.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. That's it, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, man. So thanks a lot for having me on, man. It's a pleasure to finally meet you, and looking forward to, future podcasts if you'll have me.
Oh, definitely, man. Yeah, no, this has been a lot of fun, and thank you, man. Like, it's great getting to link up with you, and I'm glad we were able to finally have a chat. And I'm excited for the future. I'm excited to see what you guys do. Please keep me in the loop on everything, because if that EP drops anytime soon, you're gonna have to come back on and we're gonna have to chat about it.
For sure. Yeah. We've got some exciting things coming up this year. So yeah, well, definitely, you'll definitely know.
Awesome. Now, real quick before we go, if you want to give a plug to all the social medias of where people can find One in the Chamber and yourself.
Yeah, sure. So One in the Chamber, you search up OITC Band on all social media platforms. Our website is the same name. You'll find us. So OITC Band. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Actually, I sometimes forget we're on TikTok, but we're on there. YouTube, we got music videos. We have our website. We got an online store if you guys want to check out what merch we've got some cool things. Yep. Very easy to connect with. So yeah, OITC Band. Yep. Find us on all platforms.
Awesome. Thank you so very much, Chris, man. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me, TJ.
All right, guys, there you have it. My chat with Christian from One in the Chamber. I hope that you guys enjoy that chat as much as I did. Had a great time getting to record with him. Big shout out to Christian for being such a fantastic guest. And a huge shout out to you for listening. Thank you so very much. It really means the world to me. I cannot express how much I appreciate all of your guys' support. Be sure to go check out One in the Chamber on all the social medias. I'll have a link down below in the description of this podcast because they definitely deserve your support. And while you're there, if you want to drop a follow and a like for your boy, I am, of course, on all these social medias at The Hodder Show. All one word, The Hodder Show, HODDER. Go ahead and leave me a follow if you so choose. I very much appreciate it. And if you are maybe looking for more ways to help support this podcast, you can go ahead and leave a rating on either Spotify or Apple Music or on the podcatcher of your choice. Ratings help this show grow, especially those 5-star ratings. Helps the show climb the charts so more people can discover great bands like One in the Chamber, as well as lots of fantastic creators, people like Jason Wilson from the Grey Rooms, and any other fun people that I have on, or maybe get to discover new music whenever I do one of the albums that made me segments or things of that nature. I like to do a lot of different things here on the show. I like to keep things fresh and interesting, so you never really truly know what you're going to get, and that's how I like it. I like to keep you guys entertained, and I like to keep you guys guessing. Who's coming on next? What's going on next? He's having on a horror author? Wow, that's crazy. Oh, he's doing a segment about whether or not Limp Bizkit's new record is good or not. Like what? Like who would have seen that coming? We have fun here. And if you would like to maybe take it a step further to support the show, consider checking out the Hodder Show Patreon to become a part of my exclusive Patreon community. Go on patreon.com/The Hodder Show and find a tier that is right for you. Regardless of what tier you join, you will get a shout out on every single episode of the show, just like my boy, Mr. Scotty D, longtime friend of mine and a patron. Scott, I appreciate your support, man. Thank you so very much. You know how much I love you. You're a dear friend of mine and have been for many, many years. And my man Will from Rolls Royce. Will has been a big supporter of the show for a very long time. And Will, thank you so very much for being a patron, man. You know how much I appreciate and how much I love Rolls Royce. If you would like to check out Rolls Royce, you can do so. They're a badass punk rock band. That's Rolls Royce. That is RAWLS ROYCE. Go check them out. Their EP and so on is still one of my favorites, as well as Larold, which was released not too long ago. And I did actually have Will on the show. He's been on a few times. So, go check that out because he deserves your support. And I thank you guys so much for still sticking with me for the outro here. Check out the Patreon if you want to get a little shout out like that every episode and special behind the scenes content. Once I hit my goal of $40 a month, I am going to start an exclusive Patreon podcast as well as a ton of other stuff I have planned. But we got to hit that goal. Once I hit that $40 a month, there's an immediate upgrade that I can make to the actual editing process of the show, which is going to allow me to not only make the show better sound quality wise, but it's going to open up a whole new world of possibilities for me with doing other stuff. I'll be able to edit faster and more fluidly, so I'll be able to have more time to put into the show to then do things like a Patreon podcast. So keep that in mind. Patreon.com/The Hotter Show. Either way, thank you so very much for listening. You do not need to become a patron to keep getting great entertainment like this interview that you just heard here today. Keep it tuned. We got a lot more fun stuff coming this year. 2022 is going to be our year, folks. We're going to make this year a bitch. Let's go get it. Thank you so very much for listening, and I'll catch you next time on The Hotter Show. Take it easy, guys.